If you're anything like me, you've probably invested in books, courses, retreats, mentors, or business programs. Sometimes it's $20 for a book. Sometimes it's thousands for a course, especially if you run a business. And sooner or later, the same question appears. Was it worth it? You know the feeling. You discover the perfect program. You excitedly swipe your credit card. This is it. This is the breakthrough. This is the thing that's finally going to change everything. You block out 4 days in your diary. You stay up until 4 in the morning because of the time difference. You fill notebooks with ideas, complete every exercise, dance around the room because everyone says that's part of the process. Then, 2 weeks later, the excitement begins to fade. The old doubts return. Nothing seems different. You start asking yourself, was I fooled again? Have I been wasting my money all these years? Surely I should know better by now. That's it. I'm never doing another course again. If you've ever felt that, I completely understand. I've been there too, but I'd like to offer you a different way of seeing what's really happening. Let's start with a different premise. When you invest in yourself, you're not simply buying information. You're making a declaration. You're saying, I believe there's more available for me. That belief immediately changes your energy, whether you realize it or not. Now let's go one step further. Every person you invest in is also a container, a living field of experience. They embody something your own system already recognizes: confidence, prosperity, leadership, creativity, freedom. On the surface, it looks like you're paying to learn something, but underneath, you're stepping into the energetic reality where that possibility already exists. You're rehearsing again that identity you've moved away from. That's why resonance matters. You cannot genuinely resonate with something that doesn't already exist somewhere within you. Your nervous system recognizes it before your mind does. It quietly says, that feels like me. I remember that. I want more of that. That's why you buy. And that's a good investment. The problems usually begin afterwards, not because the investment failed, but because expectation replaces resonance. We secretly decide how life should reward us. More clients, more money, more opportunities, more certainty. When those things don't arrive on our timetable, we conclude the investment wasn't worth it. But the truth is, we have no idea how life intends to unfold. We actually don't. There's an old saying, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. I found that to be remarkably true. Let me give you an example. Not long ago, my partner invested almost $5,000 in business mentoring. The goal was simple: generate more business. About 6 months later, I noticed him quietly reflecting. He asked himself, was it actually worth it? From his perspective, he had followed every recommendation. He'd invested in advertising, done the work. Yet no new orders had appeared, so I invited him to look beneath the surface, to see the real result on his investment rather than the one he thought should have happened. I reminded him that this was the first time he'd invested in mentoring with a woman. That mattered, because whether we realize it or not, the feminine represents the field of potential, the place where new realities are first imagined before they become tangible. Without realizing it, he had invested in believing more deeply in his own potential. Then we looked at everything that had actually changed. The mentor had insisted he complete exercises he would normally have skipped, exercises that no male mentor had managed to activate in him. So he was strengthening something far more valuable than information. He was strengthening commitment, follow-through, grounding. She also encouraged him to make videos, something he'd resisted for years. Ironically, after genuinely trying, he discovered complete peace in deciding that video wasn't his path. That was a breakthrough. No more endless late nights wondering whether he should be forcing himself into video marketing. No more mental wrestling. He had clarity. That alone saved him countless hours of future frustration. Then another insight appeared. During the mentoring, he had happily helped her with a few technical tasks. When she insisted on paying him, he was genuinely surprised. Charging her hadn't even crossed his mind. I pointed out what had really happened. He had stepped into a different relationship with his own value. Someone else saw his worth before he did. That was part of the investment too. Then I reminded him of something else. Normally, he thinks about a large purchase for at least a week. This time, he simply invested. He didn't even mention it to me beforehand. That told me something profound. His relationship with money had already softened. His nervous system felt safer. He wasn't making decisions from fear anymore. That shift had happened the moment he invested, not the months he was doing the work. As we continued talking, I watched his body relax. He took several deep breaths. His shoulders softened. His nervous system was letting go of the belief that nothing had happened. Then another memory surfaced. He suddenly realized that coincidentally, the same month, he had also invested in an AI program run by another female mentor. When I asked what had stood out, he said, she was incredibly generous. She gave far more than she'd promised. She wasn't constantly charging for every little thing. It was a really nice feeling. It was refreshing. I smiled. Of course it did. Because your own nature recognized itself. Your potential was saying, this is who you are. Generosity feels like home to you. You aren't attracted to that behavior by accident. You resonate with it because it's already part of your blueprint. I watched another layer of understanding land. More breathing, more peace, more certainty. So what's the takeaway? Before you invest, don't start with the price. Start with resonance. Does this feel alive? Can I genuinely see myself in this reality? Does something inside me already know this is possible? If the answer is yes, trust that. Then stop measuring your investment by one outcome, because your greatest return may arrive in a form you never expected. Maybe you gain clarity instead of clients, confidence instead of certainty, peace instead of pressure, or perhaps you discover what no longer belongs in your life. That's still a return. When you invest in another person, you're ultimately investing in yourself. You're telling your nervous system, I matter, I'm worth this, my future is worth feeling now. And that's a return no one can ever take away. Trust your resonance, trust your timing, and remember, the greatest investment is rarely the information you receive. It's the person you're remembering and the person you're embodying again while you receive it.